Hello. This video has been a long time coming. Um, I think you can probably guess what I'm gonna be talking about. Um, yeah, it's difficult to kind of get into the rhythm of everything that I want to say today. But this is also my first video where I'm not just talking about my emotions and how I feel, but I'm talking about something that I really like and, getting into it. But I want to also say some things about, misconceptions about the author and, just what the world thinks in general, but we'll get to all that. So, for those who don't know or haven't gotten the clue yet, I'll be talking about Haruki Murakami's literature. These are the books I've read by him. There's one at the top also, and one is missing because I've given it to someone. So I'd say I'm pretty qualified to talk about him. So, a small history about how I got into literature. I was actually at a shop I always went to when it existed, and I was just checking out books. Back then, it was mostly me looking for architecture books to see and just kind of read small paragraphs about stuff. So never novels, mostly pictures. I was like 12, except I was 19 or something crazy like that. Um, and yeah, as I was searching through there, I saw this book right here. I don't want to take it off. It's Men Without Women. Um, and I remember I just saw the cover is nothing crazy. I'll try and get it out without destroying everything. Okay, this is the cover. It's not anything crazy, as you can see. Just things like that. But it's still, something got to me when I saw it. Mainly the title, just because at the time especially I felt like there was gonna be a connection there. I don't know. I can't explain how I felt, but it's the sort of story that I thought it could resonate with me. So I picked it up and thought I'd give it a try. Last time I'd done that was when I got The Hobbit, which is a great book. Didn't get to read it though. I read like maybe 2 chapters or 3 and then just gave up because I was bored. Anyways, so I started reading it. It's short stories. I think, let me see how many of them are there, because this is my first time I'm doing an analysis on YouTube and I'm not prepared. I still want to do it, the way I do everything. So yeah, it's like 7 small stories about, as you would guess, Men Without Women. Now, how that helped me, go into literature and discover that world finally, was because the stories were short. Murakami was able to rush kind of the story. He didn't have to write a lot of filler in order for stuff to make sense or to make it longer and more enjoyable or more lively. However, even though it was short, he managed to do a great job at explaining everything that he wanted to. And so yeah, it got me into literature, because after that I was like, okay, I obviously like the way he writes. Let me read something else. And then after this book, I think I started reading Norwegian Wood, which is in here with me right now. And I loved it. It was, for me at the time, it was the greatest book I'd ever read. And, moving forward, I read even more. I don't remember even the sort of, what came after what. Yeah, just read everything. Even the largest book I've read, which is 1Q84 down here, which is like, I don't even remember, like 1,300 pages. I never expected I was able, to do something like that. But I did, and I loved it. So yeah, to just get rid of, my whole story with Murakami, my favorite book of his is right here, Sputnik Sweetheart. It's just, it was the easiest book I've ever read in my life. The world was as rich as in any other book, and it's just, yeah, You have to read it. Oh, and also, uh, I don't judge books by reading the back side of them. I don't even know what it's called. I just look at the cover, and if I like it, I say, okay, I'll buy it and try and read it. I'm Shout out graphic designers. You guys are cool. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, Haruki Murakami is from Japan. He started a jazz club, which is already resonating with me, um, when he was like 20 something with his wife. And in the meantime, because he really loved uh, literature, he started writing. How he did it was actually really impressive because he wrote down everything in English because he didn't know how to do it in Japanese or something along those lines. I'm not perfect with the history of it, and I'm not trying to say that everything I would be saying about this history is correct, but he started writing it all in English, and then he translated it into Japanese, and then he started everything. I think his first novel was, I have it right here somewhere. Yeah, it's Wind, but the whole title is something different. Like, I don't know, I don't remember. Anyways, and yeah, in the beginning, Japanese critics didn't really like it because it was very unconventional for the way that, you know, for Japanese writing style, it wasn't really like anything else at the time. So people didn't really enjoy it. But this is why he was able to break through into the West, because his writing style was a bit more like what we're used to. Obviously, I have no clue, but yeah. And with time, he also moved into different places. He was living in Boston for some time, I think Chicago, somewhere in the United States, mostly I think Boston. He lived in Greece for a period of time in a small island near Rhodes. Don't remember the name of it. And yeah, his stories have had a huge impact with literature and the whole world. People do love him. But there's this thing that I keep noticing, which is the main point of this video, because obviously I don't have much to say except from the fact that I love him. He is the reason why I am reading today and I have this knowledge. But yeah, the main problem for people is the way he writes about women. They say, at least, that women in his stories are very two-dimensional, that they don't say much, they're kind of bland, and stuff like that, which I can recognize. In all these books, there's female characters. None of them are really the protagonists, apart from Sputnik Sweetheart and 1284. I mean, Sputnik Sweetheart is debatable if it's a protagonist, but there's a lot of light that shines onto that story. And 1284 is two protagonists. One of them is a woman. So great. But yeah, what I want to say about that is that it's not about being sexist. What he writes isn't non-powerful like female characters. From my experience in life and from all the searching I've done, I've noticed that these women that he writes about exist. And actually, personal preference, for me, they are the most fascinating people you can talk to. They're women who are very knowledgeable, very down to earth, but also very shy. They're introverted. If you watched my last video, where I was talking about being in love and admitting to it at the very end, at least. But yeah, it's with a woman that's exactly like this. She reminds me of characters from Murakami books, where they are just knowledgeable of the world around them, but they keep a lot to themselves, and that to the naked eye can seem like they're very bland, very boring, very two-dimensional. But it's not the case at all. For me, I think that they're the coolest women and the coolest people that you can meet. It's not, he doesn't try to degrade women. I think that he has also, it could be wrong, by the way, I should clarify that again, but I think he's writing about the most fascinating women and people that he himself has probably stumbled upon in his life. Uh, and that's for me like why I love these stories so much, because for one, the way that he describes like places, environments, it's so warm and so lively that you just get sucked into it. It's and then the people you get really attached to. For some, it may, they might find these people boring, but from my experience and from what I've lived, uh, I find that these women, I can see through another layer in the stories that he writes. It's not just, oh, she doesn't talk too much, oh, she's just there to have intercourse with the protagonist, or she's just a backing character, or she's just there because she's hot, even though you don't even see him. Um, yeah, it's for me, it's the most fascinating part of their stories. Um, and a lot of it does revolve around sex and you know erotic subplots, which do make sense in the story. They're not like films by Lanthimos where it's just a creep who's trying to showcase all his fantasies. It's not like that. Because if you watched, what's the name of the Poor Things, it's a good movie, right? The plot is good, camera work, editing, all is good, but there's no need to have all these excessive scenes. I don't want to get demonetized or anything. I take this very seriously. There's no point for half of the scenes to exist. It's just him that he wants to show all that because, I don't know, it's a fantasy of his or something, but, doesn't give anything to the movie or whatever. Here it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel excessive. It feels like, half the time it's something very wrong, but you're reading it and it makes sense why you have to do that. I don't want to get into, details of each story because, as I said before, I judge a book by its cover, and I think that's the best way to go about it because you just grab a book and you don't know what to expect. For all of these books, I had no idea what was going to happen. I never read anything about them. I just, saw it's by Murakami and I got it. The only thing I knew for a few of these, which is for Wild Steeplechase, Dance, 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 is that they were sequels to Wind and Pinball because it's a series, and it was part of their title in Goodreads. But yeah, this is basically what I want to say. As much as I've glazed Murakami, I have to say that in a few of these stories, I find myself in the very beginning feeling like, this is kind of, kind of dragging it, kind of not really talking about much. But in the end, I'm always like, holy shit, this was amazing. There's nothing bad I can really say apart from that. There was a mosquito in front of me. However, I want to talk about something else. Because the same women who've told me that Murakami is sexist have told me to read Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I have it back there. I'm not bringing it right now. And in that book, I must say, from my point of view, obviously I'm a guy, I don't know what sexism is, and I can't tell you specifics, but that felt way more sexist than anything that Murakami writes because, the female characters are, more shown or more out there. They speak, I don't know, more extroverted. But at the same time, they're way dependent on the main character who's a guy. And there's like these fantasies that he has where there's a lot of women around the swimming pool and they're, going around each other just to please him. How is that not sexist? Like, to me, that's excessive sexism. And I mean, in general, I didn't like the book. There's an era of pseudo-intellectualism, which just sucks, which I found it with most European writers. So I'm sticking mostly to Japanese, though I'm trying to, get more out there. Currently, I'm reading Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms because of a Family Guy clip where they mentioned the book. And after that, I want to get into it's another book by the author that wrote American Psycho. Anyways, not the point. My point is, I don't understand sexism in books. I don't understand sexism in books for women. Like, it's just, I don't know. For me, as I said, and I will continue to say it, Murakami's female characters can be portrayed as very weak, but if you have met women like this in real life, you'll realize that it's not the case. I mean, for me at least, I can say it's completely acceptable if you don't agree, but for me, the women I've met who were like this have been the most fascinating people. And I think that they're way above me and any guy and all of that. It's a weird thing to say, and I know a lot of people won't agree, but it's just me saying what I've experienced. I'm not here to say that I'm objectively right or wrong. I don't know that. But for me and from what I've seen, this is my take on it. And yeah, this wasn't really an analysis on Murakami, turns out, but a video where I just talk about all these things. And for me, he is my favorite author by far. His stories really captivate me. They envelop me. I'm in a whole world where I feel like I'm a part of it. The conversations really draw me in, and I learned a lot about them, from them, not about them. I've learned a lot about Japanese culture, history, and even outside of that. I love jazz, and Murakami loves it even more than I do, and music in general. And I've learned a lot from him that I didn't even know. So I find it really fascinating. And I think there is an author like this for everyone out there. And I was lucky enough to stumble upon him in a random day and just, starting to read him and all his books. But yeah, this is just the video for today. There's not been any emotions, as I said, or any thoughts I've had. It's just me going crazy over a woman. And, I thought I would take the time and talk about this as well as I did. I'm sure it's not even that good, but yeah, it's just that. So thank you if you watched it. I'm curious to hear anything that you might have to say in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one, which I don't know what it's going to be about. But yeah, also, if anyone's watching and writing down in the comments, tell me if you made it this far, which I've seen the analytics. I know most of you don't. Let me know if you prefer these kinds of videos where I talk about something like this, or I just talk about my own thoughts. Because yeah, I'm running out of things to say. So see ya.